YouTube. So welcome to the Raw Motor Works channel. I am your tech. I go by the name of my name doesn't matter right now. Anyway, today we are working on a pristine BMW e39 540 with the M62 TU engine. Now this motor here has got a problem with its volley. As you guys can see, it's pooling coolant down into the volley from a gasket that's under here. And in order to get at that gasket, we need to remove these two transfer pipes. Now this job is involved for most of you DIYers, but to get to this point, it doesn't really take a lot of tools. You'll need a 10 millimeter, an 11 millimeter, flathead screwdriver, Phillips screwdriver, a pick similar to, I'll show you guys all the tools that I used. All the tools that I used are right here, just in this section of my portable toolbox. Okay, so guys got a 10 millimeter socket, 3/8 drive, a vice grip. You don't really need this, I just use it for something else. A good trim tool. This one is a Lyle's, a stubby 3/8. You don't really need that necessarily. 11 millimeter deep, a 10 millimeter deep, like I said, a flathead, and a Phillips, and that will get you to this point. You don't need to remove your valve covers. You don't need to remove your fan clutch or anything like that. I did remove the airbox. I did remove the inlet duct, and obviously the intake manifold goes here. I did remove the cabin air filters, both sides, and the injector connectors and coil pack harness. Just to flip it over, this side goes from here over, and you'll need to drain the coolant down a little bit, which I've already done. As you can see, our level tab is already buried deep in there. I don't know if you guys can see that. So our next step now is once you get to this level or this point, sorry I didn't film up to this point, but I'll make an update video showing you guys exactly how to get here. Anyway, so you can, in order to get at this volley, we have to remove these transfer pipes. It's a must. Okay, now there's one of two ways you can do this. One, the more difficult way, is to remove the water pump. So you'd have to disconnect these hoses, take the fan blade off, fan shroud, belt, pulley, and then you also have to take the balancer off, which is, if you don't have impact tools or a counter holder, there is a special counter holder tool that bolts up to the front of the balancer, and that will allow you to hold the balancer in place while you use like a really big breaker bar or something like that with a 27 millimeter socket to break that center bolt loose. You don't want to go that route. If you don't have that stuff, forget about that route. The easier way to get these transfer pipes out is to get the crossover coolant pipe off the back of the engine. Now this pipe connects both cylinder heads, bank 1 and bank 2, and it's held in place on each side by 3 10 millimeter sockets. I'm sorry, 10 millimeter bolts, which I don't know if you guys can see that, but bolt right down in there. See, there's one sticking out, and there's 3 on this side again. You can see one right there sticking out. So just unbolt those 3 on each side, and then this thing will come right off. Then you can slide these 2 transfer pipes out, take out, I think, the 18 10 millimeter bolts, and the transfer pipe, the volley pan with its galvanized gasket will come right out of there. So a good way to tell if you're having problems with your volley pan gasket is that when you park, you'll notice wet spots underneath your car. See, this one's already been dripping on the splash guard, but it'll leave little pools of coolant when you jack the car up. If you look on the back of the motor, there's 2 little weep holes back there. There's 2 more up here in the front. Once the coolant starts to spill out and fill up in here, it's gonna leak through one of those, one or more of those weep holes. Usually it leaks out through the back. When it gets really bad, this whole thing fills up with coolant, and then it just leaks coolant everywhere. So those are the symptoms. Typically you'll see coolant running down the back. Now there is another gasket. It's a rear block gasket that looks like a V almost, but that's in between the transmission and the back of the engine block. And now to get to that one, you have one of 2 choices. You either have to take the transmission off the back of the engine or lift the engine out of the car. The easiest of the 2 options is to take the transmission off the back of the engine. Again, that job's extremely involved. So if you guys, for those of you guys out there that don't have access to, like Torx bits, stuff like that, then you'll need to acquire those tools way before you even think about tackling a job like that. But typically that one really doesn't leak. It's usually this one that leaks. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and get those 2 bolts broken off of there, and then we'll come back with another update video. Sorry guys, I'm using my phone, so it's just me out here, and I just don't have enough time to hold the phone and film at the same time. But I'm gonna make an update as soon as I get that transfer pipe off, get a little further in the job, and then I'll explain to you guys step by step how I got there. All right, thanks guys.